Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
Ready?
What do we got?
Today we'll be in a place known for a spectacular invention in 1971. Mariano Martinez owned a restaurant, and this feller had a soft serve ice cream machine that he was looking at and was like, I'll give it a tweak here, adjust this here, and voila! He birthed the blessed creation of the frozen margarita.
My God, did you already start drinking?
Can't talk this morning.
Florida.
Nope. Dr. Pepper was invented here.
Did you just call him Dr. Pimp? What is wrong with you?
Hey. So Dr. Pepper was invented here.
Texas.
You Googled it.
I didn't. I was thinking of when Dave told me that go see the doctor. Dr. Pepper.
What the hell does that have to do with Texas?
Dave's from Texas, so if he said that's what they did, they went to see Dr. Pepper, is what I was thinking.
You Googled it.
I did not.
My other hint was this place has a capital known as the live music capital of the world.
I would not have gotten that. I would have thought Tennessee with that.
Same, which is why I thought it was interesting. I even double-checked that fact because I was like,
You know what? The times we've been to Texas, I don't think we've seen any live music.
Well, it's in Austin.
Just saw all the cows.
And then more specifically today, we'll be in good old Chambers County, Texas in 1985. Fun fact on Chambers County, it's known as the alligator capital of Texas due to its large alligator population. And I don't know why, but it didn't dawn on me that there were a bunch of gators in Texas.
Probably not all over.
Probably not. The piece of garbage we'll be discussing is a man named Johnny James. Johnny was an Arkansas native. He was born January 30th, 1954. He dropped out of school after 8th grade. And as an adult, he moved to Winnie, Texas. And he worked as my favorite, but a truck driver. I swear, I don't seek out the truck driver cases.
I think you do.
Kind of like how you seek out the prostitute cases.
I do not.
I
do not.
Yes, we all know you do. Johnny also worked at some point as an iron worker and also as a bartender, so he kind of job hopped. Johnny was also an alcoholic. He'd been arrested a couple of times for DUIs. He was also known for getting into altercations at the local bars, and he also received 5 years probation in 1972 for a burglary of someone's home. So that's your background on this fella. On October 21st, 1985, Johnny, who at this point is 31 years old, had been drinking heavily all day. And by that evening, he drove to BJ's Lounge, which I did laugh at the name of the bar.
Of course you did.
Whatever. Anyway, he drove to BJ's Lounge in High Island, where he once worked as a bartender. At the bar, Johnny was seen discussing him purchasing the bar from the owner. And I don't know if he was being serious or just like really shit-faced. He's like, I could buy your bar from you. You know what I mean? He carried on and then sucked down one drink after another. And around 10 p.m., it was time for him to leave the bar. But he didn't leave alone. He also didn't find someone willing to go with him. Instead, he abducted 47-year-old Barbara Harrington Mayfield. Barbara was the owner of BJ's Lounge, so his former employer. A little after midnight, now October 22nd, 1985, Johnny decided to stop off at a gas station called Porter's Get It and Go, which was in Winnie, Texas. Typical store clerk looks up at Johnny and she's like, Hi, how are you? Can I help you with anything? And I guess Johnny took the name of the store too seriously because he looked around at the store, pulled out his .38 revolver, and pointed the gun at the clerk's face and demanded the money in the register. He wanted to get it and go.
I see what you did there.
The petrified clerk had her flight or fight moment, but she went for the other F, which was to forget. And she was in such a state of fright that she couldn't remember how to open the register. She also couldn't remember her name. Like, everything just went blank for her. Eventually, she gets the register open. She dumps the little bit of cash that was in the register into a bag and hands it to Johnny. And she was like, this is all we have. As she handed Johnny the $300 from the register, Johnny was like, you know what? That's not good enough. He told the 23-year-old clerk, her name, by the way, is Agnes Marie Harmon, she needed to come with him, so he told her to go get in the car. Young and terrified, Agnes did as she was told. As he shoved her into the car, he told her to do as he said, or else she would end up like the other one, as he gestured to the massive pool of blood on the floor in the passenger seat. Because keep in mind, he took Barbara already. Now having kidnapped another woman, Johnny drove to an isolated area about 5 miles down the road. Johnny stops the car and tells Agnes she needs to drive. And she wanted to do whatever this man was ordering her to do, but she was scared because she had to tell her abductor she couldn't do it because Agnes didn't know how to drive a manual transmission. Annoyed, Johnny grabs his gun, makes her get out of the car, the gun's pointed at the back of her head, and he takes her to the trunk. He tosses the keys to her and tells her open the trunk. She's so flustered, she drops the keys. Johnny bends down, picks up the keys, and tells her, open the damn trunk. And as the trunk pops open, Agnes was paralyzed with fear. There, lying in the trunk, is a blood-covered woman. She was alive, and it was Barbara. Now, just so you guys know, or just so you know.
Yeah, I was going to say.
These two women do not know each other, so they've never met. I mean, Barbara knows Johnny because he used to work for her, but Agnes,
yeah, she doesn't know Barbara.
She's a stranger. Agnes stands there staring down at Barbara, who's sobbing and wanting to get out of the damn trunk. Johnny tells Barbara, get out of the trunk, you need to drive. I'm pretty sure that it was Barbara's car they were driving. I'm not 100% on that.
But since the one doesn't know how to drive a manual, he fishes the other out of the trunk.
Right, and tells Barbara, you need to drive. During all of this, Agnes notices that Barbara was shot in the foot.
Oh, she's going to need that.
Well, apparently Barbara had tried to escape, so Johnny shot her in the foot so she couldn't run.
Well, she also can't drive the stick.
I can't imagine driving a manual and having to use your foot on the clutch.
I guess it depends on where. Like if she was shot towards the toes, she could use more of the heel of her foot to push the clutch.
It sounds like she was shot right in the middle of her foot, like straight in through the arch. And Barbara climbs behind the wheel as she was told to do. And Agnes is told to get in the passenger seat, and Johnny climbs into the back so that he can keep his gun pointed at both Barbara and Agnes. Poor Barbara would cry out every time she had to use her foot on the clutch.
I realize as I said it, of like, she could push with the heel of her foot if it just got her in the toes, but I just smushed one individual finger today, and I'm so thinking about how hard it was for me to make the bed with my other fingers. So I guess even if it was the toes, your whole foot's probably throbbing.
Yeah. And I feel like the scared and all the things, but Johnny has them drive around several counties in Texas, just aimlessly driving.
Well, it's not like she's got a shot foot. Why not? Let's take a road trip.
And during Johnny's joyriding, he announces, I done never had me a black woman before, as he grabs Agnes, pulls her into the back seat where he rapes her as Barbara continues to drive through town. He eventually guides Barbara out onto quiet country roads a few miles from where he originally picked up Agnes. He tells Barbara to park the car, and they're alone. It's dark, and they're in a field. And what Johnny doesn't know is Agnes knows exactly where they are. He picked a remote area, yes, but it's only a mile from her uncle's house.
Ooh.
What are the chances of that? Also, on that note, how frustratingly terrifying would that be? To be a mile away from safety, you know?
Yeah.
Johnny pulls out a second gun as he climbs into the front seat and tells Barbara to get in the back seat with Agnes. He tells the women, I ain't never seen a white lady and a black lady make out. Now do it while I watch, or I'll shoot you.
Oh, what's with his voice?
Listen, I'm doing the best I can. Both women are sobbing while kissing each other.
Ew, that sounds wildly erotic to watch people dribble snot in each other's mouths.
I'm glad that's where your head went, because I was like, could you imagine, like, their noses are drippy and they're...
And then there would be vomit.
Anyway, Johnny then instructs the women to get naked. The women reluctantly comply. Johnny is still in the front seat and instructs the women to grope and fondle each other's breasts, which they did, all while this vile man pointed his gun at them and watched excitedly. Johnny then instructs the women to put their hands between each other's legs. This pervert then told the women, I don't see your hands moving fast enough.
Okay.
You're not supposed to find that funny.
It's the voice that he's got, and paired with this guy's disgusting.
Hang on, you know what's going to make this funnier for you?
You're gonna go,
Yeah. No, I'm going to send you a picture of him.
is it like your dude that looked like he walked into a glass thing and his nose was smushed?
No. So this guy is he's got a chubby little face, and his hair is parted kind of like alfalfa, like right down the middle, long. I texted it to you.
He looks like a pervert.
I know.
Like, if I think of a pervert, other than the hairstyle, I guess now will be in my memory hole for that. But, like, he looks like a pervert.
Yeah. So he's got the women back there being forced to cop a feel on each other. While he had the women rubbing each other's genitals, Johnny then tells Agnes, suck on Barbara's nipples. So after around an hour of this nonsense, of them performing sexual acts on each other, he tells them to switch seats. He puts Barbara in the front seat, and then he climbs in the back where Agnes was. And one gun he points at Barbara, while Johnny shoves Agnes's head down with his other gun, pressing it against the back of her neck, and tells her, here, now suck on this. And he forces her to perform oral sex on him. He told Agnes not to get any bright ideas, because if she hurt his little wee-wee, he'd pull that trigger. While Agnes is performing oral sex on Johnny, he taunts the distraught woman by saying, aw, come on, you can do better than that. So Agnes does as she's told, all while Barbara is sobbing loudly, curled up in a ball in the front seat. Then Johnny tells Agnes to stop. He tells her to get on top of him and to put his penis inside of her. Agnes reluctantly gets on top of Johnny, and he rapes her. When he was finally finished, he shoves Agnes off of him, and she asks Johnny, are you going to let us go now? And he just ignores her. After Johnny has sexually abused the women at gunpoint for nearly 3 hours...
Oh my God.
Yeah. He orders both women to get out of the car. Still dark outside. They could hear coyotes howling off in the distance. The women scramble to grab their clothes and try to get out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Agnes was bent down tying her shoes, while Johnny took Barbara to the back of the car.
I wouldn't be tying my shoes.
No, me either.
Not to victim shame.
Well, Barbara began screaming, and she was pleading with Johnny to please don't do this, please. And without a second thought, Johnny pulled the trigger. He shot Barbara in the head. With a loud, terrifying bang, Agnes covers her ears and closes her eyes. And as she opens her eyes, before she could even process what was happening, Johnny pulled the trigger again, this time shooting Agnes in the head. The bullet went through all of her fingers, because she had her hands up over her head, and into the back of her left ear. And then Johnny stood over each woman and pulled the trigger several more times. He shot Barbara twice in the head at close range and shot Agnes a total of 3 times in the head. Johnny then began kicking the bloody, crumpled bodies of Barbara and Agnes before he climbed back in the car and drove off, leaving the bodies of Agnes and Barbara in the field for the wildlife to come clean up his mess. Johnny is now in the car. He left the field and drove home to his wife, and he told his wife, Esther, that he'd been out hunting, and when she's like, well, where's your gun? He said he sold it, and then he went off to go count his money.
All right.
Yeah, like, come on.
He wasn't very good at the hunting either.
No. But little did Johnny know, Agnes was somehow still alive. Her guardian angel was working overtime. She'd been shot in the head 3 times, and she's still alive.
What kind of gun?
It was a .38 revolver. Agnes was extremely disoriented, though, and nothing seemed to make sense. And she also realized she can't see anything. She wasn't sure if it was just really dark out or what, and she tried to wave her hand in front of her face but saw nothing. Turns out she was blinded from the gunshots, and Agnes tries to stand up, but she couldn't. She collapsed back down to the ground. She didn't want to die. Not in a field. This isn't the way she's going to go.
You really like to go for the cases that are like these raped and mangled women defy all the odds.
I do. She did defy the odds.
I know, but like...
Shot 3 times in the head? Yeah.
Yeah.
Agnes, profusely bleeding and barely conscious, began to crawl towards the road. As if her ordeal wasn't horrific enough, she could hear the coyotes, and their howling and chattering was no longer at a distance.
At least the other girl is still...
Barbara?
But yeah, the other one's dead though, right?
She doesn't know what happened to her. She knows she got shot, but other than that, she's unsure. And Agnes is unable to see and unsure of like exactly where in the field she is. And she became acutely aware of all the predators that surround her in that area. Coyotes, snakes, alligators, mountain lions, shit, even the damn raccoons. It's fresh blood. They're all gonna come a-hunting. And how do you defend yourself when you're weak and you can't see? Agnes decided to try to crawl the mile towards her uncle's house. Agnes manages to make her way to the road. She's dragging her body along the road while trying to wave an arm so she wouldn't get hit by a car if one would approach. And having lost nearly a fatal amount of blood, Agnes passed out. Now, what Agnes didn't know is shortly after Johnny had kidnapped her, the newspaper guy was doing his nightly rounds and had stopped off at the convenience store around 1 a.m. I know it's a lot of time frames and it's been pretty quick, but Johnny grabbed her at midnight. And by 1 o'clock, when that newspaper guy came in, he was like, where the heck is Agnes? Or any store clerk for that matter. So the newspaper guy was like, this isn't right. And he calls the police. They found Agnes's purse was still at the store. So they were like, huh.
Yeah, something happened.
Right. So they go to her house and they ask her family, do you know where she went? So while Johnny is abusing and shooting Agnes and Barbara, Agnes's brother and his buddy, they were out searching for her because, frustratingly for the family, the police wanted to wait until the sun was up to start their search.
Yeah. Well, and to make sure she's actually missing.
Well, if she was supposed to be at work and her purse.
Yeah. Well, you know how they like to do with adults.
Yeah. Her brother was like, no. And he gets his buddy and they're out driving around looking for any sign of her. He found her around 6 o'clock in the morning, unconscious on the side of the road. And Agnes woke up to the sound of her brother's voice. Agnes communicated to her brother that she'd been raped and shot. And keep in mind, Agnes is bloody and filthy from crawling through the field. Her brother was like, he couldn't tell what was what.
I can't even imagine finding that.
Right. And he's like, where are you shot? You don't really want to touch her because you don't know where she's hurt. She's barely alive. And he's trying his best not to panic, as Agnes was like, I was shot in the head and I'm blind. Also, keep in mind, it's 1985. There's no cell phones. Agnes's brother and his buddy at that point are like, holy fucking shit, she's got holes in her head. What do? You don't want to move her. You can't leave her.
Ask her who done it.
She doesn't know. She didn't know who Johnny was.
Yeah, but she could do a description before she keels over.
Yeah. Well, they weren't sure what to do, so they were just like, fuck it. They pick her up, they put her in the car, and they nearly turned that car into an airplane because they flew so fast to get Agnes to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Beaumont, Texas. And eventually, Agnes is stabilized and interviewed by police at the hospital, and she describes Johnny to police. She told the officers that they needed to go back out to that field because there was another woman that was shot out there. Police go exactly to where Agnes told them to go, and they found Barbara's remains. Sadly, she did die.
Chewed on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How much of hers left?
Pretty much all, but, that's not a good way to go. Agnes would have extensive surgeries, and unfortunately, the bullets did too much damage, and doctors told her they couldn't do anything else to help her regain her sight. Police identify Barbara's remains and learn that she was last seen outside her bar with Johnny on the 21st. So they're like, let's go track this feller down. And so he ended up being arrested the next day, the 23rd. He was originally only charged with aggravated armed robbery in Chambers County, Texas, and held on a $100,000 bond. And the reason behind no murder charges yet was there was a problem. The authorities were struggling with whose jurisdiction was responsible for charging Johnny.
For the love of Pete.
Right? And the store where Johnny robbed Agnes, that was in Chambers County. So that was in the bag. That was good to go. The authorities decided that Johnny shot the women in Jefferson County, Texas. So about a week after being charged with the robbery, Johnny was transported to Jefferson County and charged with capital murder and attempted capital murder and was given a $5 million bond. Now, I don't know what bickering took place, but the officials were like, let's make sure the right county actually has him. They actually hired surveyors to double check the county lines.
My God.
I know. And when you know it, they done change their minds again. And they have to transport Johnny back to Chambers County. And they decide the official verdict of the shootings. Barbara's remains were discovered 1 foot 8 inches into Chambers County.
For the love of Pete.
Yeah. So that's where Johnny was officially charged for capital murder for Barbara Harrington Mayfield and the attempted capital murder of Agnes. He was also charged with kidnapping both the women and rape. Johnny was held in solitary confinement for 4 days before he confessed to the sexual assaults and shootings of Barbara and Agnes. And during his trial, Johnny's defense team was like, this is not a character for Johnny to murder someone.
What about the rape?
He's just a mean alcoholic. He can't be held responsible for his actions when he's drunk because that's not how he really is.
Who forced him to drink?
It's a disease, Claire.
All right.
So it's a disease. He can be rehabilitated.
Sure.
The jury, much like you, disagreed, and within 37 minutes, the jury had returned with a guilty verdict. Johnny's sentencing hearing took much longer for the jurors to agree. They had 2 choices, life or death.
Death.
And after 5 hours of deliberation, Johnny James was sentenced to death.
Way to go, Texas.
Right.
I was questioning it with the whole surveying nonsense.
Part of me, I think they were just really trying to make sure that he didn't get acquitted because technically the murders happened at a different county kind of deal.
I was also thinking the expense of a trial.
Yeah. Well, Johnny's wife, Esther, and 3 female jurors were sobbing uncontrollably as the verdict was read. Now, back in the 90s, Texas did not play. I think it was 85 or 86, the death penalty had been reinstated, and they just went ahead and started chopping the list.
I was going to say they didn't use any chopping.
They were knocking the names off the death row pretty quick because...
You know, you need a nap today.
I know. So he did this in 1985, right? He went to trial and everything.
He was dead by 96.
In 1986, he was tried and all that. By September 2nd, 1993, now 39-year-old Johnny James was executed by lethal injection. So he did not sit in jail very long before they were just like, stick a needle in his arm, he's done.
I think they waited out too long as it is.
They do.
Like the fact that people die of a natural death before being put down, get rid of them.
I agree completely. And an update on Agnes. So the hospital that she was at, there were nuns there, and they were in there just helping out in her room when all of a sudden Agnes saw a blur of color, and then she started being able to see shapes. No details, but shapes. And then her vision would go out and everything would go black again. Slowly but surely, she would see more details and her vision would last longer. Her eyesight now is described as iffy because sometimes she can see and sometimes she's completely blind. So
that's weird.
Yeah. She's grateful to be alive, which I'm sure. But that is Johnny James and his night of terror in Texas.
I'm glad they put him down.
Right.
The disgusting piece of shit he is. I'm kind of curious why he decided to abduct 2 people.
I don't know. I don't know if he forgot Barbara was in the trunk or not. It was also weird because what I was reading in like the newspaper articles, and while the newspaper articles back in the 80s gave a disgusting amount of information, but then they'd leave out other tidbits, and some of the stuff was like wildly inaccurate. One of the things that they said was that he gave her a bed sheet to wrap around her foot, and I don't know who drives around with sheets in their car.
I have a mattress cover in my car.
Why? Oh, for the dogs?
Because I'll put it around, and it's just a matter of when I took it off, I just it's on the floorboard, balled up. But
maybe he gave her that to wrap around her foot and then stuffed her in the trunk.
Or maybe she had bought sheets and they were already in the car.
Maybe. I couldn't imagine being Agnes.
I'm surprised she didn't try to drive to her uncle's house.
So she couldn't drive. She was busy being raped in the back seat. It was Barbara driving. And then Agnes said she knew that while Johnny was busy with her, that Barbara wasn't going to run off because she couldn't run. Where's she going to go? She's naked and bloody, and she probably didn't know where she was at.
I feel like if I were to be shot and crawling on the road, I would definitely get run over.
Yeah.
Probably twice.
That's our luck.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be broad daylight.
And I'd have a gator chewing on my other leg.
In a school zone.
Yeah. And my luck with fire, somehow I would just burst into flames at the same time.
Probably because, weirdly, it reflected off a windshield several times and, like, just did one of those, like, almost laser beam light things. And just, like...
I just spontaneously...
We were going to help her, but then she just suddenly combusted.
The gator is on her leg. The other foot's shot. The coyotes are
We're not 100% sure what's going on over there.
everything.
It's an alligator barbecue, only instead of an apple like what they do with pigs at a pig roast thing, it's the alligator with you in its mouth.
It's disgusting.
You ruined alfalfa for me.
Dude, he's got an alfalfa haircut. Like, if you picture that little kid as an adult, but keep, like, the chubbiness of his cheeks and everything, and the same hairdo, it's this dude.
Super creepy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that disgustingness. Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.